Buenos dias, peeps, and welcome to the pilot episode of the No Look Pass podcast. Here at No Look Pass, we'll be giving our take on all things NBA, just rapping about the most intriguing topics on the past, present, and future of the National Basketball Association. Everything from in-season play and championship predictions to the ongoing debates about the greatest players and teams in NBA history. Y'all can check us out on the YouTube channel GBAS and send your feedback to nlppodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's nlppodcast@gmail.com. I'm Flo, and with me, as always, is the People's Champ.
Chill. What up?
San Antonio Spurs just coming off a championship last year. And the big news this summer was all about LeBron. LeBron basically took over the media when he made his decision to come back to Cleveland. Now, the People's Champ, like, I know you're a big LeBron fan. You have been for a while now. Like, what were your thoughts when he went back to Cleveland?
Oh, LeBron. Well, one, it frustrates me that it seems like every other summer LeBron's doing something that's taking over the airwaves. If LeBron takes a boo-boo, it's on the airwaves. And it's to a point, it's getting ridiculous. I'm a LeBron fan, but at a point, it's getting ridiculous. But, you know, we got LeBron going back to Cleveland. And I think ultimately he doesn't want to do the work to make a dynasty. Honestly. Like, he has the skill. He's been able to develop the tenacity. But honestly, he's like, oh, it's the best players over here. Let me go play with them. It's like you get put off the court and at the playground, and then you're like, all right, well, let me pick the best three dudes off this team. And y'all two suckers sit down, or we're going to go run. You know? And so I kind of felt like he's picking and choosing, and he's not necessarily wanting to do the work of building a dynasty like the NBA of old.
See, that's basically the same thought I had. When he went to Miami 4 years ago, basically I felt like it was messing up competitive balance in the NBA. Because here you are going to Miami, teaming up with two top 5 players in the league, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, you hear all the old heads coming out after it happened. You heard Michael talking about it, Magic talking about it. It's, you know, back in our day when we were struggling, facing against, you know, the Celtics were facing against the Lakers facing against the Celtics.
Exactly.
Detroit came up through the ranks trying to get past both the Celtics and the Lakers.
Yep.
Then Mike followed with the Bulls trying to get past the Pistons.
Yep.
And it's like, you don't, just because, you know, you lose a couple of series, you can't get past the Pistons, doesn't mean Mike says, okay, well, you know what, I can't get past the Pistons. Let me join Isaiah, Joe Dumars, and get on that team. Like, you can't do that. So when LeBron was having trouble getting past the Celtics, getting past whoever, trying to get to the championship, kept getting stopped. It's just like, and you're going to go to Miami to team up with Chris Bosh, top 5 player, Dwayne Wade, top 5 player, to form a dynasty. Like, that's like cheating. You can't do that.
Exactly.
You know?
Yo, dude, I mean, consistently he's making decisions to really develop his own brand. And part of it, I can't really blame. As a man, you're trying to develop your career, I can't really blame that. But when you look at people like Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Charles Oakley, New York Knicks, who were, I'm a Knick, true and blue. Right. We might get the score ran up on us. Jordan might dunk on me a couple of times. But we're going to stick with the Knicks. Yo, if I got to end my career having not won, I'm committed to the cause of the New York Knicks.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And that's the thing about it. Like, when you see those cats from the 90s, the 80s beforehand, they wanted to beat each other.
Exactly.
You know, Charles wasn't saying, okay, in the 93 finals, my Suns lose to the Bulls. You know what? Let me team up with Michael right now.
Exactly.
Patrick Ewing, the same thing. And I think a lot of people argue, well, you know, you had those super teams in the mid-90s. Like, eventually Charles went to the Rockets to go with Hakeem and Clyde Drexler to try and win a championship. Early 2000s, you had Karl Malone and Gary Payton team up with Shaq and Kobe on the Lakers. And in my mind, I'm like, if you're an older player who has duked it out with your team for like 10, 11, 12 years, and you're at the end of your career, I'm okay with you joining forces with another team with other superstars to try and win a championship when you're at the end of your career.
Exactly.
But when you're in your prime,
the middle of your career,
exactly. Like LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh were, it's like I have no respect for that whatsoever.
No. And as great a level of play that they play at, it just makes you lose respect for the game.
Right.
Because LeBron ain't been in Miami long enough to change his address. But now he's going back to Cleveland. I'm like, bro, they just finished. Your jersey ain't even done burning yet in Cleveland, bro. Shit. And now you're on your way back. Oh yeah,
dude, it's it's crazy. So like when LeBron wrote that letter, and everybody thought it was profound and everything like that. Even though you say, hey, I really wasn't feeling him going back to Cleveland. I had a lot more respect for him when he went back to Cleveland for this simple reason. It's like it was no guarantee that Kevin Love was going to Cleveland. I mean, you had Kyrie Irving there, and you had players like Tristan Thompson and everything like that. But I feel like LeBron, in his heart of hearts, knew he messed up. He's not going to, say sorry for the championships he won in Miami. But the way he left, he knows he made a mistake there.
Yeah.
He knows he has to do right by the city by going back.
Yeah.
So I had so much respect for him going back to Cleveland where the situation was really unknown. Like, they were not a playoff team by any means last year. I mean, you do have a budding superstar in Kyrie Irving.
Absolutely.
But he goes back. You got him, you got Kyrie, and then they started to build that team.
Yeah.
You trade for Kevin Love, you sign for a Sean Marion, you sign for a Mike Miller, and now they're looking like a championship team.
Right.
But I had so much respect for him doing that, more so than him back in 2010 going to Miami, and it's like, okay, we got a superpower team.
Right.
I was rooting so hard against them when that happened.
You were all over Facebook. Jeez.
I was just so mad. It's like you got the super friends and like you got the rest of the league. So when Dallas faced them in 2011 and beat them, I was the happiest man on earth. I really was. And in 2 years they won the championship, and San Antonio stopped that dynasty this past year.
Yeah.
But so I feel good that LeBron went back. And I guess the question for everybody is, with that team being newly formed, do you feel like they're a contender this year?
With LeBron on your team, you're always going to be a contender. Like, I can honestly say that. Like, if you traded Kobe from the Lakers to another team, until Kobe is out of the NBA, he's going to ball until he fall. I don't care. Then both of them Achilles fall off. He's going to be in there. And so I think you got to say the same thing about LeBron. What I will say, though, even though they're a contender, I think LeBron is going to run into the same problem that he did in Miami. And I think that problem is they don't have a center who can defend, grab rebounds, and block shots. Right. They don't need him to score, but they need him to defend and be fierce. They try to get Greg Oden. I mean, the boy got straws for knees. So, I love his intensity with the game, but he just wasn't able to stay healthy. So I think he's going to run into the same problem in Cleveland. Like, they couldn't do anything with Timmy in the finals.
Right.
Tim, he put on a clinic out there. Like, looking like the Hall of Famer that he is.
Age 55, I just think about it, though. With Cleveland, they do have Anderson Varejao. And Anderson Varejao is known for being a hustle player, getting rebounds, blocking shots, and things like that. But the problem with Anderson is the last couple of years, he can't stay healthy. You know what I'm saying?
Exact same thing.
So, to your point, they do need a big man at some point who kind of like do that dirty work in the paint.
Nasty. Just straight nasty.
Getting rebounds, blocking shots, and things like that. I mean, so I guess, like, for you, when you look at the East this year, do you feel like they are the front runners? Like, they are, they're past Chicago, they're past the newly revamped Miami Heat. They're, like, the number one contenders in the Eastern Conference.
I can honestly say, especially with those two, I think they are going to be the premier contender. One, you just can't count LeBron out. Mm-hmm. But I think two, you look at the Bulls, you look at them without D Rose. I mean, it's like the Jackson 5 without Michael. Don't nobody want to see Jermaine. Take your Jerry Curl and have a seat. So I think you need, and I don't think D Rose has gotten to that place again where he's just fearless.
Right.
Like, he played so cautious when he came back. He wasn't really, and rightfully so, you blew your knee out.
Right.
But I think they need him to get back to that fearless mentality.
Right.
You said Chicago and
you got the Heat.
And the Heat, excuse me. D Wade is on his way out. I honestly felt like at the end of the season, it would have been great for him to just go ahead and ride off in the sunset. He doesn't really have anything else to prove. Health-wise, he can't stay healthy. He's not playing at the high level that he was. Chris Bosh, I mean, he's up and down.
Right.
Like, he was like that with LeBron there. Like, some nights he would show up, some nights he wouldn't.
But see, to that point though, so with the Heat, like you got Dwayne Wade, and we all know that he isn't what he was. Like he can definitely have flashes.
Absolutely.
And what they did last season was like they didn't play him certain games. They shut him down for certain games.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have as much wear and tear during the regular season.
Right.
Come playoff time, he'd be fresh. Those first few series, he looked fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He come against San Antonio, it looked like he wasn't playing as well. But I feel like this kind of gives Dwayne Wade, some motivation. Like now he has something to prove. LeBron's gone. Everybody's talking about how you're on like the downward trend.
Right.
Can you prove that you're still one of the top players in the NBA? So I think that's fuel for him.
Yeah.
Chris Bosh, I feel like everybody was always complaining about Chris Bosh, like, oh, he's not consistent or whatever like that. I felt like he had to step back his game, knowing that LeBron was the man on the team. Dwayne Wade was his Robin. He's number 2. And like there's not enough basketballs go around.
See, part of me disagrees with that because there's a part of the game where you're moving without the ball.
Right.
I would sit and watch Chris Bosh stand in the corner as if he's freaking John Paxson of the Bulls. Sir, get on the block and bang. He doesn't move without the ball. So I think, you're stepping your game back in terms of scoring.
Right.
But you're not moving without the ball.
Okay.
Your defense sometimes is like he doesn't play like a big man. He plays like he's a 2-3.
Yeah.
Instead of a 4, a more of a 4. I want to say 4-5, but he's not really a 5.
Right.
But he doesn't do the intangibles sometimes. I think make the difference between the good and the great players.
Yeah, and see, I think that was a struggle with him because you come from Toronto where you are the man. And he was more like kind of a swing forward where he would like step out and like
grab a rebound, please help us.
You would shoot them jumpers and things like that. And now you're coming into a role where you got to be more of like a hustle player.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because if LeBron and D Wade are carrying the scoring load, they're going to be the stars. You got to step in and fill those other roles, those intangible roles.
Absolutely.
And I feel like sometimes you struggle doing that. Man, he's got 2 championships to show for it. He made a lot of big shots.
He does.
In those couple of years.
He did.
So
and I was right on his side, right there. Come on, Chris.
But I feel like with him being the man now, because I feel like Dwayne Wade still kind of plays that second role.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna come up with a big year this year. I feel like he's gonna average in between 22 and 23,
what?
20 and 23.
Wow.
And he's gonna be like grabbing 9-10 rebounds.
What?
I feel like he's gonna be the man on Miami.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's gonna be doing
That's
work this year.
that's a serious prediction right there.
LeBron's out the way. Like I said, Dwayne Wade's gonna fall back and be that number 2 guy. I really feel like
this is true.
Chris Bosh is really gonna show people that he still got that. Like what was holding him back was his role, not his talent.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we look, there's been a lot of news the last couple of days, kind of going into the season about ESPN's ranking the top, 50, 100 players in the NBA. And Kobe Bryant is number 40 on their list. Kobe Bryant basically came out and said the last couple of days that ESPN is a bunch of idiots. That's basically what he said. That, they don't know what they're talking about. But if we kind of look at Kobe the last couple of years, he's been unhealthy. He only played 6 games last year. In those 6 games, he only averaged about 13 points per game. Granted, he was coming back, trying to work his way back up to that lather. But at the same time, Kobe's not the same Kobe. The question is, what do you see for Kobe this year? What is he going to be like on a Lakers team that a lot of people see as not being a playoff team this year?
Well, number one, ESPN is known for doing things that make absolutely no sense. They do things for ratings. They say, "Oh, Kobe's 40. Oh, I need to see who's outranking Kobe." Yes, he was injured last year. Yes, he didn't score as many points. He didn't play as many games. But you're talking about the man who Shaq left, and the man went to win more championships, put the team on his back consistently. And this is coming from someone who can't stand Kobe. He made my butt itch numerous times playing in the finals because I knew he's the man that puts that nail in the coffin sometimes.
Right.
And I think it's crazy to say, oh, he's the number 40 ranked player when this man, has a ticket already to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I mean, it's completely ludicrous because you're looking at a season where he was injured.
Right.
Like it makes no sense at all whatsoever.
See, and I always tell people about this. People know that I have kind of a disdain for Kobe and a disdain for LeBron in certain ways, but I'm kind of on the come up with LeBron. And I always explain to people, like, it's kind of a psychological thing. I grew up with MJ, and I loved MJ. Like, MJ was my favorite player, like he is for a lot of people. And in my mind, MJ was the greatest player of all time. He is the greatest player of all time, and nobody can compare to that. So when Kobe came on and he started to make a run at MJ, started to make a run at his records, everybody was starting to compare him to MJ and saying, well, Kobe, he might be better than MJ in certain aspects. For me, psychologically, I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let people have that conversation. Like, no way is he as good as MJ. No way can he compare to MJ. Same thing with LeBron when people started making those comparisons. So I didn't want to give them that credit. I had tremendous respect for their talent and how great they are. I know that they're great players who are going to win a lot of rings. Kobe has 5. But at the same time, I couldn't let people make that argument that he was as good or if better than Jordan. I couldn't let them do that.
I feel that. I mean, because it's like I grew up with MJ. Like, there's never going to be a player as well-rounded as Michael. Yes, LeBron is a better facilitator.
Right.
But when it came to it's crunch time, we need a 3. You're giving the ball to Michael. There were times in LeBron's career that you didn't really think we're going to get the ball to LeBron.
Yeah.
I think the same is for Kobe. Like, Kobe is an amazing scorer.
Yeah.
Bar none. Like, but is he on the same precipice as Michael in terms of defense? In terms of sheer just, like, getting it done? Because there have been times where Kobe's looking to get it done, and he's done too much.
Right.
You're jacking, bro.
Right, exactly.
There's no way that you score 80 some odd points and you're not jacking. And so I think, you look at ESPN. I mean, ESPN uses characters like Skip, Stephen A. Smith, rile people up, get their feathers ruffled, but they're not really being accurate with this. I mean, Kobe is an amazing player. Jordan, he's not. But you can never. I mean, it would have been insulting to put him in the top 10. Right. But you put him number 40. That's just ludicrous.
Yeah, and see, my thing is, to say all that stuff about him, comparing him to MJ, like, I have no doubt that Kobe's a great player. I have tremendous respect for him and what he's done in his career. But I realize this. I know that Kobe was born in 78, so he's 35, 36 years old right now. He's, the last couple of seasons has been injury prone. With Kobe, it's like he still, what Michael was always talking about, like, your mind says that to do certain things, but can your body actually do the things that your mind wants to do? Now, I would nowhere put Kobe at number 40. I think that's very disrespectful, and is in no way realistic of what he can do if he's healthy this season. But at the same time, it's like I don't see him being a top 5 player anymore. Right now, I might put him at number 10, number 15, something like that, because I still feel like he has that ability. Like, I still feel like if he's healthy this season, he'll score 20 to maybe 22, 23 points per game.
Agreed.
But he's not going to be in the same echelon as a Kevin Durant, a LeBron James, a Derrick Rose if he's healthy at the same time. But I mean, it's very disrespectful, and like I said, unrealistic to put him at number 40. No way is he number 40.
Yeah, he may not be number 5, but he's definitely not number 40.
Yeah.
Like, that's without a doubt.
Yeah. And then I guess the question is, I mean, once again with Kobe and the Lakers, like, they put some pieces together. They brought in a Carlos Boozer, who a lot of people say is on the downward trend. He's looking like he's not the same player that he was. He brought in a Jeremy Lin, and some other pieces like that. Do you see the Lakers as being a playoff team with a healthy Kobe Bryant this year?
I mean, if I'm honest, and this is in no way trying to be disrespectful to Carlos Boozer, but in order to be on a downward trend means at some point you had to be on an upward trend. And Carlos Boozer hasn't, to me, been that relevant of a ball player since he left Duke. Yeah. He hasn't really caught on with just catering his game to the pros and being that go-to player like he was when he was at Duke.
Right.
And so I think with the healthy Kobe, you got a fighting chance. you legit got a fighting chance.
Right.
I mean, the Spurs are going to be in the mix.
Right.
The Thunder, they're going to be in the mix. Dallas is going to be in the mix. I feel like they might be able to sneak in there,
Right.
low seed,
Right.
make some things happen. Kobe hit a couple fadeaways, which he trademarked from Jordan, might add. But it's kind of on the fence. Like I don't think they're going to be your legit contender. They're going to be like, yo, we get hot at the right time, we in there,
The Western Conference is so tough because
Yeah.
you got a lot of teams out there that are in that top 10, 11, all fighting for those 8 playoff spots. Because we talked about the Spurs. The Spurs are going to be there if everybody's healthy. Thunder's going to be there even though Kevin Durant's going to be injured the first couple of weeks of the season. I mean, you got Memphis, you got Dallas, you got the Clippers, you got the Golden State Warriors, you got so many teams who are really good. The West is so tough. So you think about 9, 10 teams deep. Because last year teams like the Phoenix Suns didn't make the playoffs,
Exactly.
and they were sitting up there winning 47, 48 games, whatever they won last year.
Exactly.
I just don't think the Lakers can compete with those teams.
Yeah.
And really sneak into that top 8. If you got an injury here and there, with like the Thunder or the Spurs, where somebody gets injured and those teams kind of have. They kind of spiral out.
Yeah.
Maybe the Lakers have a chance of sliding in the number 8, number 7 seed.
Yeah.
But a lot of good things have to happen for them.
Absolutely.
Bad things happening for other teams.
Right.
In order for them to slide in.
They need another legit scorer.
Oh, exactly.
For a long time, all you really needed was when you got the possibility that I'm going jack and put up 60.
Yeah,
you don't really need another score because you're not gonna get the ball, player.
But even still, when Kobe kind of came back, when the Lakers were re-emerging in the late 2000s, they needed to bring in a Pau Gasol, and everybody can say what they want to say about Pau if he's soft or whatever.
Right.
But Pau was his Robin on
exactly.
those teams. He was scoring 20, he was grabbing 10. So they needed a second fiddle to Kobe.
Absolutely.
Kobe couldn't do it by himself.
Yeah, again, Boozer, I love his game. He get the dirty work done.
Right.
But I just don't think he's that guy.
Right.
He's not that guy.
It's very interesting as we move into kind of like, outside of season predictions, more into like the history of the game. It's something that we saw a couple of weeks ago. NBA TV, as we all know, has the show called Open Court, where they bring in, panelists. You got, Shaq, you got Charles Barkley, a lot of retired players with 10, 15 years of experience in the NBA, talking about the past, the present, the future of the game. And one of the recent topics they talked about were the next 10. Now, for some people, you guys might know that in '96, the NBA came out for the 50th anniversary, the 50 greatest players in NBA history. For some people, they felt like, a lot of critics felt like were left off.
Yeah.
You got, Dominique Wilkins is a name a lot of people expressed that should have been on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Bernard King is another person that should have been on the list.
Right.
A lot of people say. So we're looking at, that happened in '96. We're here now in 2014, about 20 years later. Let's say we're looking at the next 10. And a lot of people say there's certain people who are locks. You got Tim Duncan, who's a lock. People say you got Kobe Bryant, who's a lock. LeBron James is a lock. Some people say that Kevin Garnett is a lock. Now there are some people who are on the outside looking in, like maybe a Tracy McGrady, maybe a Vince Carter, maybe a Dwayne Wade. Let's take Tracy McGrady for example. Steve, do you feel like he is in that next 10?
Now, I'm gonna shout out one of my boys right now. Hey, what's up, Scotty Dreamer? Look, Scotty is a serious T-Mac fan.
Right.
And I listen to 92.7, Hail to the Redskins, holla at your boy. And they have a saying on there: go sell crazy somewhere else. T-Mac, great ball player, but I honestly think that he lacks that X factor that changed games.
Right.
I mean, I think at a point he was playing second fiddle to Vince Carter. So if you're on a team and you're not the dominant premier player on that team,
right,
how can you be in the top 10? I think you look at that list, you probably got T-Mac coming in at like a 13. He's an absolute ball player.
He was a beast.
He's a beast. I mean, he put teams on his back.
Yeah.
Legit. He could slash, he could shoot from the outside. he could grab ball. He's a legit ball player, but I don't think he has that X factor.
Yeah, and the thing about T-Mac is, once he got from under Vince Carter's shadow, and he was doing work with Magic and the Houston Rockets, like he was the premier scorer in the league. It was like him and Kobe, like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
T-Mac definitely took home a couple of scoring championships. But the problem with T-Mac, and a lot of people will point to, is like he could never get his team out of the first round.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And some of the teams that he was on with the Magic and with the Rockets, it's like you didn't really have a great supporting cast.
At all.
With the Magic, what he struggled with a lot was the fact that Grant Hill wasn't there, because Grant Hill was injured, a lot of the time in his early years with the Magic. And then, going to Houston, T-Mac struggled with his own injuries, and then you got, Yao Ming stepping in and stepping out. He has his own injuries as well.
Yeah.
But T-Mac was never, ever able to get to that point where he was on a team where they were winning.
Yeah.
He was carrying the team.
Yeah.
And he was doing more than just scoring,
Exactly. I think, to be that guy on that top 10 list, you got to be able to... I mean, honestly, I feel like the championship is going to be that thing.
Right.
But if it's not the guy with the championship, you got to be the guy who's able to put the team on your back.
Right.
And a lot of times he scored a lot, but he wasn't really putting the team on his back like that. Kobe, I'm putting the team on my back. Right. You might not get the ball for the rest of the team,
right,
but you're on my back.
Right.
LeBron, he had to learn a little bit, but he put the team, on his back.
Right.
KD, even now, you got what's the
Russell Westbrook.
You got Russell, who I don't know what he sometimes he get in these funks where he like, I'm approved, I'm better than KD tonight. We're gonna get these buckets, and then you up there, you just doing crazy stuff, And so you got even KD dealing with that and still able to put the team on his back and win.
Right.
So I think you look at players like that, and then you put T-Mac beside him. You got to be able to put the team on your back to make that big difference.
Right. And then when you start to compare players in the NBA and you do your own rankings in your mind, or you're talking with your friends about who's better than who, it's like, okay, you got people who you feel like are at the same talent level.
Yeah.
It's like, T-Mac is great. He has a great talent level. He's on the same talent level as a Tim Duncan or as a Kevin Garnett or whatever. Right. But then what do they do past the talent level? What were they able to do with their teams?
Exactly.
How much winning were they able to do? How many championships were they able to win? With T-Mac, it's not even about, okay, well, he got his team to the Western Conference Finals a couple of times, Eastern Conference Finals a couple of times.
Yeah.
He couldn't even get there, with his teams. And like we said, sometimes that's like a product of the actual supporting cast.
Yeah.
But the fact that he could not win, I feel like you can't put him in that top 10, that next 10.
Yeah.
We start talking about players. We say, okay, Timmy's on there. We got LeBron. You got Kobe. You got Kevin Garnett. You talk about players who were able to put teams on their back. Allen Iverson, with that supporting cast, was able to get to the NBA Finals.
Look.
He put a team on his back.
And if we for real, they listed AI at 6 feet.
Right.
AI was probably about 5'5".
5'5".
He was about a good 5'5".
True.
You know what I'm saying? And AI was that player. I mean, we've seen the clips of him crossing Jordan twice. One of the best defenders in NBA history.
Right.
Able to shoot, able to slash, able to get fouled, score, and get the free throw down.
Right.
And completely undersized.
Yeah.
Completely undersized.
So I guess the question is, so if we leave T-Mac off, a Kevin Durant comes to mind when you're trying to put together this next 10 list. If you got those players who were great the last 15 years, we already mentioned them, and you putting in a couple of other players who weren't on the original 50 list, maybe a Gary Payton, maybe a Jason Kidd, maybe a Bernard King, maybe a Dominique Wilkins, even a Bob McAdoo. You put them in that top 10 list.
GP was left off the top 50?
Yeah, he was left. But at that time, GP had only played 7 seasons in the NBA.
That's true.
At that time, he really hadn't gotten to the NBA Finals just yet.
He
got there a little bit later that year.
Right.
But for Kevin Durant, if we're talking about Kevin, is it too early to put him on that next 10 list? Because he, first of all, hasn't won anything yet, but we know he's won an MVP. He just hasn't gotten his team to the finals and won the finals.
You know, I could like to compare it to the current music scene. We got a lot of people who just pop up, 3 words in a beat, hey, 3 words in a beat, and then we don't hear from them. And then we see you at the corner store trying to
Mike
get food
Jones,
stamps. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Who? Exactly, who? Mike Jones, who? You know, so I think he has to have some staying power. And I'm not am I always trying to say like he's Vanilla Ice or something.
Right.
But you gotta have that staying power to get on that next 10 list.
Right.
It has to, just like we said, it gotta be more than talent. It gotta be more than, I dressed nice and came to a party. Right. What did you do when you got to the party, player? Did you make something happen? Did you make your teammates better?
Right. I feel like he does that. You look at the Thunder. They made it to the Western Conference Finals, if not the actual NBA Finals, Western Conference Semifinals. They've gotten there several times. Yeah. Now, he has a supporting cast there. You got Russell Westbrook there. KD has won an MVP in this league.
Right.
He's scoring a lot. You seem like he's improved his game the last couple of years where he's doing other things to make his teammates better.
Right.
It's just that I feel like it's too soon to put him on there just because I feel like other players who have accomplished more than him get to be on that list now. He's definitely going to be on that list a little bit further down the road because I feel like he's established his staying power.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like it's too soon for him.
I think I would have to agree. I think if you say the next 10 currently in the league,
right?
It's hard because he just hasn't been there long enough,
right?
Which it can't. I mean, he's young, so I think he has to have a chance,
right?
To really solidify his place there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure you can make some arguments that he should be on the list for this and this reason.
Right.
But sometimes you know that a player's supposed to be on the list when you don't have to make an argument for them to be on the list.
Oh yeah. And we're gonna stay on the Thunder real quick and talk about them. So for the last few years, they've had great success. But the thing about it, and a lot of complaints that come the Thunder's way is, with Scotty Brooks, their coach, it seems like they don't have a structured offense. It's like, I'm going to give the ball to KD, I'm going to give it to Russell Westbrook, and I'm just going to let them do their thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people say that lack of structure kind of, takes other players on the team out of their game, and it's not a formula for them winning a championship. So with that said, it's like, how far do you see the Thunder going without that structure? Do you feel like they can win just giving the ball to KD and say, hey, KD, why don't you go create something, go ahead and score? Or doing the same thing with Russell Westbrook? How far can they go with that kind of basketball?
I honestly, let's go on for the sake of argument. Let's say they make it to the finals. Let's even say that they win.
Right.
Do I think they'll have staying power to develop some type of dynasty? No, not really. Because of the flash in the pan, I think they have the capability of by chance making it their shoot. They almost beat the Heat, legit.
Right.
But I don't think that's a recipe for success. Right. The reason being is because the one that you depend on is KD. There are some nights Russell is just going to be out of sorts,
right?
And he's not as dependable as KD. And so I think you gotta have an offense that, even if 40% of the game, we're just gonna run.
Right.
Get a ball to KD, let him yank somebody. That classic PG County yank. Let him yank somebody, go to the hole, bang it.
Right.
Drop a 3, and then the 60% of the other 60% of the game, we're involving the rest of the team. We're dishing.
Right.
We feeding low post. We pick and rolling. We moving without the ball. If you got people that you can depend on, that I'm going to score, I think that works. I just don't necessarily know if they have those people that are consistently score, and in the same facet, like, we're gonna focus the game on involving everyone else, and then KD is kind of on the back burner because we're trying to involve everyone else. I think that's kind of the reason why they're like, okay, let's just let him run and create, let Russell create, because they don't necessarily have the rest of the supporting cast to depend on scoring wise.
Yeah, that is a point there. But I look at it this way. I feel like either Scotty Brooks eventually has to be able to change his philosophy, or they have to get a new coach. Because I feel like they do need some kind of structure. Now, you can make an argument about the supporting cast. Okay, well, last year, the last couple of years, Cephalosha isn't good enough to be that guy.
Right.
Kendrick Perkins, all those kind of cats.
Right.
But you got Serge Ibaka there. I feel like if you're going to be able to take that next level, you got to have some kind of structure. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where you're not just giving the ball to KD and say, KD, go ahead and get it. I feel like that's the Bulls pre-Phil Jackson and the triangle offense. Or that's the Lakers pre-Phil Jackson, the triangle offense.
Right.
You see the Spurs and how well they moved the ball this past year on their way to the championship. It's like you can't just give it to your superstar and expect them to be able to take everything on
every game.
Basically, you got to be able to have some kind of structure that gives the other players confidence and makes it so the defense isn't just focusing on those two players, because if they stop those two players, then you're done.
I think it's the same thing with the Heat these past few years with LeBron.
Right.
You would see Eric Spoelstra on the sideline, and you see him writing on his clipboard, but then you get on the court, and it's like, was he making a smiley face on the clipboard? Like, what were you writing? Because I see 4 people standing around, and LeBron like, hey, move. Like, I feel like he's kind of biding his time. And you're probably going to see Eric Spoelstra get found out. You're going to see what type of real coach he is.
Okay.
I think it's going to be the same thing. Because you got this beast in KD. You got a speedster beast in Russell Westbrook. So it's kind of like, let me just step back and let them make me famous.
Okay.
But then, you're going to really see once they keep hitting that glass ceiling. Right. They're like, we know we can get there, but we need a little bit more. And that little bit more is going to be the coaching. Right. So if he want to keep his job, he's going to start writing them smiley faces and them stick figures on that clipboard. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Like, it's gonna have to be, like I said, a Scotty Brooks changing his philosophy, where he kind of spreads the ball around a little bit, has a little bit more structure. Yeah. Or they're gonna need a different coach.
Absolutely.
Because, like I said, they're great players, and you can get really far with great players taking it on their shoulders. Right. But at some point, like you said, you're gonna hit a ceiling.
Somebody got to do something. Somebody got to write a play, a pick and roll.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's going to do it for us here at No Look Pass. For the People's Champ, I'm Flo, and we out of here, y'all. Take it easy and God bless.